We're measuring that too as a backstop to the question of achievement, because we know you can't achieve goals, you can't lose those 10 pounds, you can't get your health in order if you're not showing up. You certainly can't build relationships if you're not at the YMCA either. So we look at what we're measuring, and then we're looking to see if we're creating the experiences that support achievement, relationship, belonging, and lining those two things up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jorge. And that really sort of tees up in terms of we have learned so many lessons in terms of this work, and we've learned by failing and doing and undoing. And so I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to share that is here with you. Please interrupt me at any point. If I don't see it in the chat, let me know. But I look forward to answering any questions you might have afterwards. Particularly, I know we have probably representatives here from larger Ys, smaller Ys, organizations that are not YMCA. So if there's something specific to your context, we really want to know. So I'm just going to go through 3 lessons to get there. The first is really to make the case and resource it. So this has to do with leadership alignment. You can measure, try and measure outcomes all day, but if folks, including your board and your decision makers, aren't really doing this work or don't understand why you're asking for more resources to do it, you're going to be hitting your head against the wall the whole time. And so what the case is that outcome measurement does 2 things really well. One, it makes sure that we have mission integrity. So we claim a mission, but if a donor tries to dig any deeper beyond a swim lesson, maybe if we're counting swim lessons, for example, and a donor asks, well, how do you know they enjoyed the swim lesson? How do you know how they felt? How do you know the outcome? And if we don't have that, it really hurts our brand integrity as an organization. And then the second is that when we have that outcome measurement, and then we're able to come to donors, to come to philanthropy and say, look at this. This is why we, in addition to offering swim lessons and childcare, this is the bigger outcome we're making in society. So you have to sort of make the case for it, and then also make sure you resource it. So the second piece of that is to build outcome measurement alongside financial and operations measurement. And this may be more specific to our Y people, and I come from outside the Y, but in my experience, the Y is really good at measuring 2 things. One is our financial data. We really want to make sure we're doing that well. And this is because we have a brilliant history of being a social enterprise and having this diverse funding portfolio that really helps us have longevity. However, sometimes we just stop here in terms of what we measure. Then operations might be the number of fitness classes, number of kids in daycare, et cetera. But the third piece of that stool is impact. And again, for those of you in the YMCA, YUSA just announced yesterday, I was in a call where they're going to start, when we think about operational excellence, we're going to think about it in these 3 buckets: operations, finance, and now impact. And so investing in this now will really help align as well to the national trend and the movement where we're going. So what are some actions you can do to do that? First is identify an outcome across the whole. I think Jorge and Kenzie really spoke to this. It's really helpful. If it can stem directly from your vision or mission, but it also can be something simple like, did people experience joy when they came here, right? So just one thing that could be true across the whole, and start small. I love that, Kenzie, you said that. Ideally, if you can elevate it into your strategic plan, this is just a way that if whatever you're measuring is also part of your strategy and ideally tied to your vision and mission, it helps to create that alignment and buy-in from the whole organization, versus if you're measuring something over here and then you're fighting against the big system to try and have it hear you. And the last is resourcing the work. Now, this might not be available for everyone, but if possible, dedicating someone's time to it or repositioning someone's time to it, knowing that it pays off in the back end. So it's hard. It's an investment in it's a long-term strategy. And the role for if you're in CEO or boards particularly is to emphasize why it's crucial and what success looks like. And so an example here for us is we started this work with Results Lab. We really started it before then when Jorge set our vision around achievement, relationship, and belonging and ensured that our board was on board for that vision. But as Kenzie said delicately and lovely, I think we had, I don't know, 27 different data systems that we were capturing, and we were defining achievement, relationship, and belonging in a million different ways. And some of us were measuring it and some of it weren't. And so it was super helpful to work with Results Lab to really help us in terms of understanding what we can all share in common while keeping our individual departmental unique nature and helping us figure out how we could measure that. So that was super helpful, but that was just really the beginning of our measurement journey. The second thing we did was we hired a person for the role who's a lovely person who we learned the hard way wasn't the right person for this work. And so that took us some time. And we found another third person who was able to do that work. If any of you know Cody Sarko-Polner in our movement, he's a wonderful human being, but he's had to teach himself a lot, right? Because it's not like, well, there's a ton of people coming out of universities with a degree in nonprofit outcome measurement. So it really have to invest in someone's time to learn how to do this. And lastly, we invested in using Power BI and dashboards to really help us figure out how to tell the story in the most efficient and effective ways. The second lesson I would say is to truly engage stakeholders. This is, I mean, I think in general best practice in terms of any activity, outcome measurement being just one of them. But it not only does it improve buy-in, of course, from staff members, but it improves the accuracy of the measurements and tools themselves. That's one of the things we loved about working with Results Lab, is that we had 4 teams across the organization working at a time, and we worked in teams, and those people were the people on the front lines, the ones having to do the data measurement, having to do the gathering in the middle of their busy day, right? And so what you don't want is some top-down approach where you ask people that are already strapped and overcommitted to do more. So it has to come from what they need, what they're capable of doing, what they're capable of capturing. And so a couple of actions there is to go beyond surveys. In our work with Results Lab, it was a process that we worked on in a year in teams. We met in person, we met on Zoom, we had teams, and it was an ongoing conversation that wasn't just us asking them in a survey in an impersonal way. Also allowing them to see themselves as part of the entire process. So again, not just extracting information from frontline workers or from community members one time, but actually inviting them into the process, the design process of what you're measuring. And even funders, I will say that in my experience, funders and donors have empathy for how hard it is to capture some of this stuff and want to actually be with you on that journey and can support you in that process. And then the last is involve more than once, which is part of articulating the entire process. And then the role of the CEO here in particular in governance is to just plan and resource the time it takes for that. Being patient. Like I said, I get back to that slide with the 4 squares on it. I mean, we are in year 3 of and finally now able to show full dashboards with alignment across the organization. But that has took us, I would say, 3 full years of work. And so be patient with yourself, I would say. And here's just a picture of one of our sessions with staff members. And another thing I want to say here that's important is not just to engage frontline workers within a silo, but to engage cross silos. So here we've got someone that is one of our business analysts who works from a financial perspective, someone that works in fitness, someone that works at a front desk, and someone that works in childcare sitting at the same table together. One of the things we have at the YMCA in particular, and even in any large organization, is you've got departmental silos. And it helped us get to that seeing ourselves as part of a whole team when we broke those silos at certain points and put people together across those differences. And our last thing that I'm going to share here before we're going to open it up for some questions is commit to closing the loop. And this is like when we take the time to loop back and share our results, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it actually helps us deepen trust, uncover new ideas, and secure increased funding and partnership. So actions there are data use sessions and storytelling. I wasn't familiar with the term data use sessions until we worked with Results Lab, and this has been something that really stuck with us from our partnership with Results Lab, in that what we do is now that we collect the data, we don't just collect it once a year and then it sits in Cody's one person's department and then they analyze it. And we don't just use it to put fluffy newsletter pieces or grants, which those are important too, but we use it with integrity with ourselves. So Cody does something 4 times a year. He goes to every branch and they pull up their results, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what's really important is we disaggregate those demographically. So we can disaggregate those by age, race, income level, et cetera. And that really allows us to make sure not only are people experiencing things the way we want them to experience it, but are they actually, is everyone doing it at an equal level? Or there's certain populations that aren't getting that same experience level? And so here the role of CEO or board is to create moments of engaged curiosity over judgment from afar, right? It's easy for particularly board members to peer in and say, well, why is that number what it is, right? And so flipping that to curiosity and saying, why are the numbers what they are? I wonder why. I'm curious about that. And digging in with your team and let's say, let's look at it. Let's investigate together. And that tone creates, because outcome measurement can create a culture of, because it's increased monitoring, what you don't want is your staff to feel alienated or pressured, right? You want to make a culture of failure and a culture of open data and transparency normalized. And that has to be ideally represented from the highest level of the organization. So here's an example, and I think this is going to play right, although you guys know I'm not having the best tech day as you've seen so far. But this is just a video of and it's quiet, so you're not going to hear any sound, but I just want you to see. Now, this is, again, took us 3 years and to get to this point. But what's really cool about if you want to know about Power BI, I'll connect you to my colleague Cody. But you can see here sort of the capability. This is just silent he's going through. So he can sort now by location. Or here's our overall achievement, relationships, and belonging scores. He can sort by people's ethnicities, backgrounds, income. And so we can really now understand from an outcome perspective how we're doing. But please don't be intimidated. Like I said, this took us 3 years. And even if you're a small Y or a small organization, you can start with one and get it won't take you 3 years because it won't be as big to move the needle. So hopefully this gives you some idea of what we're talking about. And those are my last 3 things. Yeah, make the case and resource it, truly engage stakeholders, and commit to closing the loop. So hopefully that was the right amount of time, Kenzie, and we've got some time left for questions or comments that folks have. I'd love to hear what this journey even has been like for you as you've moved through it. Oh, and I'm going to stop sharing. So right, Kenzie, is that what you'd prefer?
Yeah, that's perfect. Love to see everyone. And yeah, feel free at this point, open up, unmute, and any reflections, questions that this is sparking for you. We'd love to hear from you.